Richard Orr is running for Missouri Senate District 23, which includes all of St. Charles City and most or all of the following: St. Peters, Cottleville, Weldon Springs, Newtown, Portage Des Sioux, West Alton, and Harvester. He is running against incumbent Republican Bill Eigel in the November general election. Richard has 35 years experience in the business world as a retail purchasing agent. More than that, over the past 40 years, he has testified at Jefferson City and Washington, D.C. hearings to lobby for environmental and progressive bills. And Richard has lived in St. Charles County for 20 years. He has proven to have a lifelong interest in making the lives of average people better. He will fight hard for government policies that benefit all the residents of Missouri. Welcome, Richard.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for allowing me to speak this evening. I'd like to say that we've saved the best for last, but I think that would not be completely accurate. There's so many excellent candidates preceding me. So I am the Democratic candidate for State Senate in District 23, which is basically the eastern half of St. Charles County. Our county is large and populous, vibrant, and growing still, although it's, for the time being, not the fastest growing county in the state, although it usually does have that designation, but it's the second. And there are about 250,000 people in my district, so I have one of the most populous districts that anyone has been talking about tonight, other than a lad who has the whole state. So I've been in the county here for 19 years. I've seen a lot of changes. I'm a lifelong Missouri resident, born here, and have lived in almost every part of the metro area, finally settling in St. Charles just about 20 years ago to move my family to an area that we thought would be a good place to live, much like Daniel Boone did a few years prior. And I think that we made the right choice. So just a little bit more about me. I attended the University of Missouri to get a degree in biology, but switched over to working in retail also. I would have liked to have stuck to being a wildlife biologist, but my retail career has allowed me to meet a lot of interesting people, help get them into the outdoors, which is my first great love, of appreciating the outdoor opportunities that we have here in Missouri, our parks, our rivers, all of our wonderful, interesting wild places that people get out and enjoy themselves in, and it's healthful and soul enriching, and I've just loved being a part of that. My wife taught high school in North St. Louis County for 27 years and was a much beloved teacher from Riverview Gardens School District. And my daughter has been in the U.S. Army for many years, is making a career of it, has served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and is now most recently stationed in Hawaii. And once the COVID restrictions are lifted, and I suppose the election is over and I'm a senator, then I'll finally get a chance to go visit her there. But right now, if I were to go visit her there, I would have to sit in her house for 2 weeks. So I think it's just as well I stay here. So I care about veterans issues because of her, and because there are so many veterans in the county that need support. And I hope to be able to go and help them with that. So just a little bit of an anecdote about my family. I come from a long line of, excuse me, pioneer Missourians going back to at least 1860, when my great uncle ran to be governor. Excuse me, I better do something about this. In 1860, Sample Orr ran to be governor and narrowly lost to the Confederate governor, Claiborne Fox Jackson, who took the Confederate legislature to Southwest Missouri and then Arkansas and hid out until the end of the war. So he probably would have been a better choice. And then my uncle, Sample Orr, also, although he changed his name to Samuel Clemens Orr, ran to be a congressman in the 1960s in the 8th Congressional District and lost in the primary. So point being, I plan to break that losing streak this November. So I've been active in politics for many years, starting with Jimmy Carter. I worked for all the Democratic presidential candidates since, try to help as many of them as possible win. Unfortunately, we haven't had as many wins as I would like. And I worked for local candidates, statewide candidates like Jerry Litton, Jim Symington, and Harriet Woods, who nearly unseated Jack Danforth. But the 2016 race was my first attempt, and I got into it because I was getting to be appalled by the way that the Republicans were treating so many aspects of our state government and the people in the state. It particularly was appalling when I found out that I didn't have a senator, because he had resigned a year previous to be a lobbyist, as had 4 of the 5 before him. And this didn't seem right. And it was an open seat, so I decided to run for it. And I was further propelled by the fact that the Republican caucus had taken a very anti-environmental bent. Former Governor Jay Nixon created several new wonderful state parks that the Republicans were attempting to sell because they didn't approve, evidently, of parks, and they certainly didn't approve of Jay Nixon. So they were trying to sell these parks at a loss, and that's been a hard-fought battle that, as a member of the Conservation Federation of Missouri, I've helped to advance that cause of not selling the parks through my position as the Public-Private Lands Chairman of the Committee for Public and Private Lands, and we've had some success in stopping these efforts, but they keep coming back, as does the plan to privatize rivers and make it so you can't float a Missouri River unless you own it. So this is something that I've also been working to stop. A lot of positions that I have, I differ greatly from my opponent. He's a gentleman named Bill Eigel. He's a businessman like myself, although he is most decidedly anti-union and anti-labor, and his company is often picketed by labor for their practices. But he was new to politics, as was I, but he outspent me dramatically from the sources like the kingmaker in St. Louis, Rex Sinkfield. So I always refer to him as the senator from Sinkfield. He even tried to pass a law for Rex to get rid of the city earnings tax of St. Louis and the earnings tax also of Kansas City, which I think a senator from St. Charles County doesn't really have a whole lot to do with, but he was paid to do that, so he tried. He didn't succeed, luckily. So I want to try to get the politics in the state focused back on the needs of the people and not on the needs of the large business interests, which is the way it's been so far. I guess I can mention also that I've been a big supporter of the unions in Missouri and workers' rights, which are under attack. They're trying to repeatedly pass right to work in Missouri, which has always puzzled me why Republicans like that, because they always talk about wanting people to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and pay their own way, but then they want to pass the freeloader law that lets people work for a business where the workers have obtained good pay and benefits from the union representation, but not have to pay for any of it. And so far, we've been successful at reversing the trends, the laws that the Republicans have passed. And I want to work to continue that. I've been fully supportive of Clean Missouri, the initiative petition that passed in 2018 to really clean up Missouri politics and get the dark money out and the gerrymandering. And now, of course, the Republicans are trying to get it back in practice with what I call unclean Missouri, their effort to undo all of the good work that we did in 2018. So obviously, I will be interested in trying to prevent that. So I think other than expanding Medicaid, which is hugely important and something that has been a major mistake on the part of the Republican-led legislature to not accept the many, many billions of dollars that the federal government has repeatedly tried to give us each year to cover more deserving people with health care with federal funds. And each year we say, no, we're not interested, just send it on to the next state. And that's what we've always done. So obviously it would be a great thing if this passes. It was put on the ballot that they hope will be less populous than we would like, but yeah, I think it'll pass, and hopefully we will be able to start covering all these deserving folks.